Hello everyone, I'm Kriti Sabnis. I'm infectious disease consultant. At the outset, I thank Bombay Orthopaedic Society and Dr. Mangal to give me the chance. And all my three favorite orthopedicians are with me here today, so I think we'll have a good discussion. Dr. Vikas is here, Dr. Mangal is here, and Dr. Sachin is here. So this is a major team which I work with. Here, because it's of short of time, we are going to discuss quickly what orthopedicians need to do when they have an infected joint, infected wound, or infected prosthesis. So, do all swabs are same? How do we decide? So, this is on the right side is the swab from a OT, and the left hand side is a swab which is taken from a sinus end. So this is the superficial swab from a same patient and the same per-operative tissue from a same patient. So I will, I think an important message to take that we as an infectious disease physicians don't prefer swabs. So because swabs have lot of cotton and it creates lot of difficulty for the microbiologist to decide about the sampling. So whenever possible, please, we have to send a tissue in a sterile container. Even if you don't put a normal saline in that, it's okay. If you just collect it in a sterile container and send it is good. But I will definitely urge not to send swabs. Because swabs have lot of, as you see, the actually correct organism was Staph aureus. And what we got is pan-resistant Klebsiella from outside superficial sinus tract. Always this is a debate between an orthopedician and an ID physician. If you cover it broader, it will have a better effect. Is it that? So this is a sterile, again, sample from a sterile site from a nail medullary canal. Patient had a chronic osteomyelitis. Also, she had immunocompromised because of rheumatoid arthritis, and she was on immunosuppression. And she had this pan-sensitive Staph aureus, which is the commonest skin flora and commonest organism to cause acute osteomyelitis or a chronic non-treated osteomyelitis. So out of this, what will be our choice? Majority of the people prefer linezolid because it covers better. It is a newer generation antibiotic than giving an old oxacillin or giving old cefuroxime, which we normally use for surgical prophylaxis. So is it true? Actually not. When we go for a sensitive bug to a resistant bug, this requires a little bit of pharmacology to put an application into. So linezolid will be always inferior for a sensitive staph. So you have to have a discussion with your microbiologist. When you have a staph aureus or any bacteria for that matter, we need to know what is the best penetration tissue antibiotic. And for always Staph aureus, which is methicillin sensitive, first generation cephalosporins are the best drugs. And in that, the normally what we use is cephaloxolin, which is a first generation, very simple to give twice a day IV antibiotic. So it's So I think whenever we treat infections, this is a broad thing we should remember. Narrow is nice if you can live with it, and broad is bad except when you don't need it. So I think this applies for infectious disease treatment for bone and joint very well. So now we come to the true era, what we normally see the patients as. So this is a patient, again a sterile sample from OT, which is, now this is a sterile sample, true sample from a sterile site, which is an MDR pathogen. This is an MDR Klebsiella. And the patient underwent a good debridement. There was no intramedullary foreign material implant. So what will be the choice? Because it is only susceptible to chloramphenicol, which normally we don't give because it has a lot of aplastic anemia and cytopenias associated with, and meropenem. So these are the common things. Should we, in this case, when there is all pan resistant, should we try newer oral antibiotics? Because a lot of companies try to promote an alternative to IV carbapenem. We have oral drugs. Should we go for it? Do we always need intravenous? If we decide intravenous, how much? And as I said, are there any oral options? So unfortunately, for these kind of infections, true cultures, we don't have any oral options available because these are inherently resistant bugs. We need to assort to intravenous therapy for at least initial, even if we have a good implant removal, at least a good CRP. We will see not only one parameter, it's a combined approach to decide if the inflammatory markers are coming down, the wound is healing well, and the implant, even if you have put an external fixator, it is stable. We will decide the duration of antibiotics, but in these cases, we don't have option other than intravenous. Now, this is another case. I'll try to go a little quick. So, as I said, always intravenous drugs, if you choose, they work. No, it is not like that. This is again a 54-year-old male who had an open fracture tibia, had two discharging sinus, underwent an implant removal, and this was his culture. Again, a per-operative sample. And he was treated with amikacin once a day for 3 weeks, but still had inflammatory parameters high and a discharging sinus. So should we say it is a treatment failure? Should we say that it is a resistant bug even if it is sensitive? What should be done? So before we decide the choice of the antibiotic, little bit of a discussion about the penetration of an antibiotic at a local space has to be done. So we chose an intravenous drug. That's a good thing, but amikacin has a very, very poor penetration at the local site. So that was the reason for treatment failure. So if you see, this is from 2020 publication. In this list, if you see, it's an exhaustive list. You don't need to go through this. This is available freely on the net. That amikacin is nowhere mentioned. So before starting an antibiotic, we should have this discussion about basic PK/PD levels, what is the dosing interval, and a tissue penetration. So do we really need IV therapy? There is a lot of debate going on whether directly an oral therapy can be started, but it has to be carefully selected in a very good controlled infection with no other immunosuppression, because these are all factors will matter for ultimate control of the infection. So how to select a patient for IV versus oral as an initial therapy? There has to be a good debridement. There should not be preferably any intramedullary implants, and a local drug-eluting system also will help, like local stimulant granules can help in local antibiotic availability. So there is also a lot of questions I get to ask regarding when to send a culture, because majority of the patients, when they present to us with an infection, they are already on antibiotics. So generally the timing is mostly 2 weeks of stopping IV antibiotic therapy. So this was a lady who had neck humerus fracture, underwent a repair, had an implant in situ. Per-operative cultures were negative. Debrided, still had continuous discharges. We stopped all antibiotics for 2 weeks, and she underwent a debridement and finally found to have AFB positive and gene expert negative. So she had a typical mycobacterial infection, and this is the final outcome. So do we really rely on the CRP and ESR to treat the infections? Multiple literatures are available. There are major modifications even in the prosthetic joint infection criteria, as CRP and ESR can't be relied as a can't be relied as a markers. They can be falsely negative. Do we always have to send cultures? I think this is what we have learned after working with Dr. Mangal is many of the patients have very subtle signs of infections. So whenever the patient is coming, like mainly which I highlighted in a red site, immunosuppressed patient, it's coming with an abnormal site fracture, multiple fractures, patient is septic. In these cases, even if you're not having any obvious signs of infections, please do send cultures. And because once you're out from the OT, we can't go back and take any new samples. And also, commonly people send cultures. They send aerobic, they send AFB, they send fungal cultures, but fail to send a histopathology because a lot of fungus don't actually grow that rapidly in the culture, but can be picked up in a histopathology. So this is the same lady which we were discussing. Finally, her culture came as MSSA, and we treated her successfully. So this is my last slide. It is, as already been discussed, it's a multidisciplinary teamwork. It's a continuous effort equally by infectious disease specialist, microbiologist, and a surgeon. And I think timely, appropriate sampling, no swabs, only tissues, a good debridement and a deeper culture should keep our patients away from infection. Thank you.